Uh, Good evening, guys. Welcome to the seventh episode of Country Liquor 2 Classy Champagne. Today we have two very popular guests with me. One of them is Mr. Sanjay Mehta. He is one of the most active angel investors of India. I think more than 150 investments under his belt. It's very kind of him to take out some time for us. Thanks, Sanjay. Uh,
Happy to be on the show, Ankur, and good to know you.
Thank you, thank you. And my other guest is Arav Bhatia, a very young, very motivated, entrepreneur, CEO of, I would say, a very upcoming startup, Pocketly. Welcome, Arav.
Yeah, thank you, Ankar. Happy to be here.
Thanks. Let me start with you, Sanjay. And especially from with 100x VC, you are operating at a micro VC level, at investing at a pre-seed stage. My question to you is, and which will help other investors largely, that how do you decide to bet on? You have made 150 plus investments. It's not an easy task. So what are your core items on which you tick mark and say, okay, hey, now I think we can make a call.
So, this many of would have heard across, but let me repeat myself. So whenever I hear a pitch, I see three things as a possibility. Whenever the founder is pitching across their value proposition, the problem statement, why are they building the company, what is the unmet need, the tick in the mind is there money to be made?
Yeah,
Second, when the founders put their saying that why they have the quality to become the winners, what is their right to win? So, any domain expertise, whenever they are highlighting their team, the tick in the mind is, are these people who can make me money? Third, when they talk about the terms of investing, financials, whatever where numbers and money is involved, how much money I will make. So three things typically drive a decision. Is there money to be made? Are these people who can make me money? How much money I can make? So that's how this three tick in a box and you go ahead. So this is more of a crude way of telling, saying that you are looking through a gut feel. But on a thesis basis, we have got five parameters. One is first we look at the large opportunity. The market size has to be huge, very large. The second is the founder's right to win. Third is business model, their part to profitability. Fourth is what is the unfair advantage, what is the IP, and what is their barrier to entry. And lastly, conviction of 20x return. So these five things typically as an investment thesis we look into it. And we would like to go ahead and invest into pre-revenue companies, just at idea stage. So we have taken numerous, investment bets in terms of just backing the founders and the market.
yeah. No, great. Thanks for this. I'll come back to you on this question with a couple of more details. Let me just ask Arav, can you just explain us what does Pocketly do? Why did you start it? When did you start it? What's your own story behind it?
So, so basically, Pocketly is a micro lending platform for college students. To,
Okay.
to put it simply, if there's any credit requirement for any college student in India, they can come onto our app, do the basic KYC, get a basic credit limit, and start using the app. It's like a virtual credit card for them. Why we started out was because very simple reason. When we were in college, me and Navdesh, we at that point of time we basically had made an app for college students, and at that point of time we were making decent money through Google Ads and stuff like that. So a lot of our friends used to approach us asking, "कि यार, I know you guys are making money. Please give me money. Need money." क्योंकि by the end of the month everyone faces cash crunch. And a lot of salaried employees also face cash crunch. So students, so definitely they do not have the financial acumen कि वो save करे money and plan out करे. There are a lot of instantaneous buys that happen during the course of a student. Now, when we were doing that, we didn't recognize the problem per se, can it be solved at a scalable level? We definitely did realize that there was a problem, but didn't realize if a business could be made out of it. After graduating, Navdesh went and worked at InstaMojo. He went and worked at Udaan. Over there, he was heading the credit department over there. My family had an NBFC, so I started working over there. And we started talking again someday, and we realized here this was a problem we recognized in college days. Now that we have some sort of experience in the credit space, do we really think that we can solve this problem at scale for all college students? And can we possibly, while lending also, giving them credit, can we also possibly add value to their lives on a day-to-day purposes other than credit? So, which is why we started out, and after that, it's been a crazy journey. We started out in October last year, and 100x was our first investor. Just after 20 days of launching the application, forming the company, we were funded by 100x. And we have come a long way after that. A lot of things have tweaked, changed for the better only. Yeah, that's it.
So what you're saying that within 20 days you got your first funding. Is it India's fastest funding? I don't know whether that's, but let me ask Sanjay, and this is related to your first answer itself. And I think I agree with you that most of the early stage investments, they are the gut based investments. We can't be, and I'm sure with Arav or with Pocketly also, whether there's a product, there's a scalability, there's a tech, if within 20 days you also would not have got all those things checked. So for most of the investors, at least whom I am meeting in my network, they are not being able to distinguish between betting on a founder versus a very hard. So what do you think? Is that a right approach, or no? You really have to consider tech, product, market, and all those things also at that stage, at early stage.
So early stage founders play a big role, but my take in learning, which has been is market is the first thing what you need to look at in every point in time when you are doing investments. There is a saying, if let's say there is a lousy market and a great founder, then the market wins.
Yeah.
Because market is not accepting the product, वो market ही जीतेगा, वो बेचने ही नहीं देगा, कुछ भी कर लो, it's not going to work out.
Yeah.
If there is a great market and a lousy founder, then also market wins. वो काम बंदा नहीं करेगा तो भी वो बहती गंगा में हाथ धो लेगा, because the market is growing rapidly, it's growing, सबकी दुकान चल रही है, इसकी भी चल जाए. If there is a great founder and a great market, that's where the magic happens. And that's what we try to look into it. Is this a great market? Is this a great founder? And can a magic be created? Yes. If it is true, then you move ahead.
Okay. Yeah. But my, what would be your advice to the first time investors? Because, after this startup boom, a lot of first time investors are coming into the picture since last 2, 3, 4 years because they have made new money. And obviously it's not a heritage money or a family money, and they're not taking big bets. They are taking a smaller angel investment bets. So what's your advice to them? Because I'm not so sure whether all of them will be taking 10, 20 bets a year. They might be making 2, 3, 4 bets a year. So how can these guys look at which are the right market plus right founder combination?
So, I run pro bono venture investing classes. So another one will happen across with TiE Mumbai, which is starting, I think, on September 26th, in case anybody would like to join. So it runs across. I mean, I would like to see more and more angels and, startup investors coming in. So I spend time giving them. So it's a 16 session course, comprehensive. Takes care of everything, understanding what a VC ecosystem is, how does it work, how do you curate deals, How do you get your own proprietary deal flow? How do you negotiate a term sheet? To everything, right? So including valuations and stuff. So I would recommend across to join that anybody who is interested to join those courses. It helps you get your first hand experience in terms of what mistakes you should not do while investing. And the reason why we started, and personally I started 100x, was a lot of the angel investors like me who were lead investors. So whenever I used to do my angel round, it would get subscribed in less than 5 minutes. Up till 5 to 7 crore, you open the round, or 5 minute के अंदर में it gets subscribed
Yeah.
fully. And this is because you have done the work, you work hard with the portfolio companies. Now, if you look into all the lead investors, they end up becoming a fund. Be it Rehan, who started Orayas, he was a great investor, to Sanjay Nath, to Anand Dunia. All these guys were angels and then they converted from a smaller fund to larger. Now, as you do across larger funds and write bigger checks, you tend to lead deals and write large checks. So early stage was always a challenge, and you don't have enough lead investors in India. So I saw that gap, saying that how can I create a proprietary deal flow which is curated, where I have invested my money and I'm not marketing a deal like an angel network. I'm just saying that this is a deal which I've invested. My skin is in the game. If you like this deal, please join. Now that with 100x, the whole story is to help these angels or individuals or family offices to join syndicates. And we created an instrument which is called iSafe, which is a India Simple Agreement for Future Equity, which is a very simple document
Yeah.
and which helps across a quick entry into the cap table for any investors who would like to join the syndicate. So it is we the whole idea is to building a company is very tough for founders. How can I simplify the funding portion, because that is equally hard. And secondly, for investors also, investing is tough. With iSafe, the investing becomes very simplified. So both the things were looked upon when we started 100x.vc.
Okay, great. Thanks, thanks. I think there are a lot of lessons for early angels, and I'm sure if anyone wants to join that session, that will also be great.
So
Ara,
let me give you a
yeah,
portfolio
please.
construction. Let me give you a portfolio construction. What is the best way to go about? One
Yeah,
is you try to tag along with any lead investors who have done multiple deals. So things for you to go wrong are minimized. If you're a
yeah,
first time investor, the first deal shown to you, suddenly you get excited and writing checks doesn't work. So, tag along with a lead investor, it is the best option. Second is spread your investment for 5 years at least. You
okay,
cannot do 1 year investment. You have to play the vintage every year. Your portfolio construction has to be minimum 20 companies. If you don't do 20 companies, then you are buying lotteries. So 20 companies, your capital is back, assured. If unless you make some stupid mistakes, that's a different story. You are just blind betting. But if you do the real
smart
work with a lead investor, if you do 20 companies, your capital is guaranteed because उसमें से एक ना एक exit मिलेगा which will give you all your capital back. Idea here is how do you create a portfolio which is continuously growing, right? And helping you generate that 2x, 5x returns as it grows across. So it has to be a patient process, not just throwing blind darts into the kind of saying that let me try kind of. And this is not glamour. This is real hard work, right? For us at 100x, when we invested in 20 companies, we had looked at 1982 deals. So VC is a 1% business, right? So you look at 100 deals and you invest in one. Now that I've done the 100 investment due diligence and I've invested in one, so it's a curated deal.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense, makes sense. But and since you have been investing as part of Meta Ventures also, uh, and you have made bets, and they are very famous bets like Oyo, Loginext, FabLA. Uh, just curious, were you lucky, or you knew that these are big market plus big founder bets?
So let me share across the last exit, which was Loginext, right?
Yeah.
Where I was the lead investor. Now, when I met Dhruvil and Manisha, uh, both of them Carnegie Mellon graduates, studied in data analytics, worked in logistics companies. One was in EY, one was in IBM, left the high paying job, came back to India, already had paying customers. Now, what more do you need? The market was ripe, and I came. So, I'm a tech entrepreneur myself, so understand tech business much more kind of stuff. So, the opportunity was very visible. Both founders extremely committed, driven across. So there is nothing wrong. I mean, you can't see any downside over here, right? So best breed. Now, even if I have to look into, Pocketly, right? Arav and Navdish, both are young kids.
Yeah.
They had an exit behind them. At the young age, they created an exit, right? I remember when I was in my engineering, वो पैसे का भी समझ नहीं था ये बंदे लोग ने तो दोनों ने एग्जिट किया हुआ है. So hats off to this kind of kids, right? Then you want to back them, right? So whatever problem, they have that obstacle busting mentality and that perseverance to create something very large. And very similar we had seen with Ritesh in Oyo. The market size was huge. He had created a focused, kind of list of homestays in Gurgaon area, 3,000 plus listing. And that time Airbnb was not there. And we had our first check was 30 lakhs in Oyo. 30 lakhs ka, 10 billion, $70,000, crore ka valuation banaya hua hai. The first check was 30 lakhs. Right? So, see, if you look into the founders like Arav, Navdish, who are at young age and they don't have fear, right, of doing things, trying out, taking a bet, and these are committed founders. So it makes you want to back them, right? You want to back them. Even if you lose money, it doesn't worry you.
Yeah, yeah. I get what you're saying. So, Arav, you had an exit. You raised from 100x VC. Now you're raising your another round. Is that so easy to raise money, or you have mastered the deal, or you are really doing something right with your product? What's that? Because why I ask this question. Obviously, because I get at least 10 to 20. I'm sure Sanjay would be getting far more than me the pitch decks every day, and people, irrespective of anything, just say, "Can we raise money? Can you give us some money?" We spend some time with them saying, "Hey, this is not the right approach." But so, what's the case with you in 9 months, one exit, two fundraise? What's working well for you?
So I wouldn't say that I'm a mastermind at raising funds. Definitely not. Very early into this. Uh, in terms of college students coming out and asking for money, so we were also, while in college, we were used to also get really excited about certain businesses that ये अभी धंधा मिला ये तो फोड़ देंगे हम तो कर ही देंगे. But you get into the details of it, and certain things are not investable. You can't just start out a product and be like, nahi, I want money just because fundraising is cool. A lot of people do that. You can't do that. And while fundraising ourselves also, the moment we decided to fundraise from 100x.vc, at that point of time, we already had 1,000 users with us. We already had, we had given out small loans, but we had given out around, I think, 1.5 lakh rupees worth of loans in just 20 days, but we had given that. And we realized that we need capital to scale. If we don't have capital, this product can't scale. But if we do have capital, we might be able to scale really well. So every founder has to think, first of all, that would you yourself invest in that business? If you wouldn't invest in your business, if you wouldn't, and not just in terms of money, like obviously you have to put it your time, sweat, effort, everything, and then money also. As an investor, would you invest in that business? And does your business actually require investments? Because there are a lot of companies that I admire also, that have really created impact without fundraising. So that I believe would be the right approach. These two factors would be the right approach.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Uh, uh, Sanjay, I need one more help from you, and it's advice for us, for the early stage investors. Does valuation matter? Because I see a lot of my fellow investors, spending a lot of time fighting on a valuation. Ke, hey, this is very, very expensive deal at 10 crore, 12 crore, 15 crore. And again, my reference point is early stage. If it matters, then what's the right benchmark?
So valuation does matter, but it depends upon the way to look at it. So, for example, if you get a great valuation, but the deal is not happening, what do you do with that deal? You will not invest. Just because the valuations are good, it does not matter that you will invest, right? So, the way to work across for any startup investor is one, leave enough equity on the table for the incoming investor. Second, you focus on the money which you are funding. So, for example, if you are underfunding the company, then also this money will dry out and you will lose your capital. If you overfund, the founders will build a business plan to spend and not build a company. So both are problems. So how do you arrive at a right metrics? And when I used to be angel, I used to work backwards. So what kind of funding would be required across, and what are the metrics this business would require to raise the next round of funding? So let's say if the company needs 2 crores but is raising 1 crore, then I will ask them to raise 2 crores. Right? So idea here is to create a win-win situation where there is enough equity so that incoming investors are able to come into the cap table without challenge. And secondly, there is enough incentive for founders also to build their company. So you work backwards. It is the smartest way to close a deal. And founders agree because now they realize that you are equally incentivized to ensure that the success of the company is going to happen. Right? So you are not out there to do a one-way transaction. It doesn't work. So let's say, if I am investing, let's say 2 crore and I take away, 35-40% of the company, there's nothing left over there.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. For an investor to make money, he also has to see his exit, which might happen after 2 rounds. And you're right, there has to be enough for the growth and headroom there should be there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So, but my is it largely because from a valuation perspective, like B2C companies drive a lot of high valuation as compared to B2B companies in early stage. Uh, Again, is there any uh, specific things which personally you look at कि यार ये young entrepreneurs हैं, ये mature हैं, ये experience हैं, ये sector specific हैं, they have raised money earlier, they will be able to scale, or again, it's gut feeling.
No. So all transactions, see, venture capital business is an unfair business, right? And take it or leave it, this is how the industry works. Every transaction which is happening in the industry is arbitrary. You cannot map any transaction saying that this is the reason why. So why would Kunal Shah get across such a valuation in cred? You can't question it, right? This idea here is at seed stage, the guy is able to, raise money at 70 million valuation. That's unheard of. Or let's say Jitendra Gupta raising money, these are like proven guys. So you can't question their ability to raise money and, command premium. But these are exceptions. Typically, the early stage, if somebody is raising across, let's say 2 crore to 4 crore, the range which I would recommend across is around 8 crore to 12 to 14 crore kind of valuation. If somebody is raising anywhere around, between 2 to 3 crore kind of stuff. Then valuations of around 12 to 15 kind of stuff. And if anybody is raising about like 3 to 5, then around 15 to 30 kind of stuff. Beyond 30, it's a kill. Then it doesn't work out. And idea here is the founders will have to, then do an ESOP allocation. So there's hardly then enough equity which is going to be left on the table. So that's I would say as a ballpark number. Average, early stage valuation in India is around 10 crore.
Yes, yes, you're right. You're right. Makes sense. I think again, valuable lessons for a couple of them. Arav, now moving from away from investments and funding, you operate in a very competitive space and you fight against giants, experienced founders, investors, large teams. At such a young age, I'm sure you will find or you have to find a source of uh, advice, mentorship. My question is, how did you reach out to those people if there are any advisors, mentors? And what are the things where you look up to those them?
Sure. So, right now, most of our advising also a lot of things we have reached out to 100x.vc. So, I think Sanjay sir and the whole team is just one call away. Like today, also, I wanted to ask them something. I just called him up, he picked my phone, and we had a conversation. And with advisors like this or investors like this, it's a lot of it depends on luck if you're able to find the right person or not. Because with 100x also, our first email was a cold email that we sent out to them that we are looking to raise funds. We know that you guys have started this fund. We're really excited about it. So this is a pitch deck. And that is how we reached out to advisors. So I don't have any particular strategy that you do this and that, and then you'll be able to reach out to advisors. But mostly what happens is that you find references that do you know this person? If I want to talk to, let's say, Kunal Shah possibly, that guy is huge. So I know that maybe Sanjay sir knows him, so he could introduce me, put in a referral, put in a mail for me. That could be one way, or reaching out through LinkedIn also works. A lot of people do reply. In finding the right person, I believe either that person, you need to have massive respect for that person because they either should have created huge businesses if you're looking at, especially for the startup founders, or should be from your particular industry doing something great. So if I am from the finance industry, lending industry, I will possibly look for people in this particular industry who could advise me. Or else, if I am not looking for finance, I'd look for people who have built great businesses in general. These are the people I'd look up to and basically ask for advice.
Okay, great, great. Sanjay, the Hostel Fund's uh, philosophy in which we started this is to basically inculcate the culture of entrepreneurship among students. And the idea is that students should consider entrepreneurship as their first career choice. नौकरी तो हो जाएगी, you know, because what I believe when they reach at our age, late 30s, early 40s, then most of us decide to start something of our own, and by that time, the plane is missed. But after working in this space for some time now, I believe there's a the demand and supply both are not there. The students are also not ready. The investors or advisors or mentors are also not that space is also not mature as if I compare that with the US ecosystem. What do you think? What's lagging? How can we, or is this right or not? How can we make more student entrepreneurs to take out the risk, go out, try? क्या होगा ज़्यादा फेल हो जाएंगे ना कोई दिक्कत नहीं है nothing to lose here at this stage. What do you think? What should we as an ecosystem should do? And why are students still not considering entrepreneurship? They are very happy paying their loans off and taking jobs. That's been my sense.
No, you are right. Let me share an anecdote. Uh, uh, my friend used to fail frequently. I mean, not a great student kind of stuff. I used to go to their house उसका पिताजी यूज्ड टू टेल हिम कि ये तो साला धंधा ही करेगा, इसको कोई नौकरी तो देगा नहीं. So that's how the mindset of the parents is. So that's how you are brought up, saying that you become an entrepreneur if you are a failure. If you are not good at studies, because you will not get job, the second alternative is entrepreneurship. Then comes across the schools and institutions. All of them will flaunt across 100% placement. None of them will flaunt across entrepreneurs. No institution will say that हमने इतने entrepreneurs produce किए. They will always say that we have 100% placement, kind of success. That's their winning point. So what they are creating is people who are going to do jobs. So the mindset at both domestic home parents level and at the institution level needs to change, and which is changing in a rapid way. In fact, all the colleges now have that Atal Incubation Center. Government is putting so much effort, money behind it. There are a lot of schemes which are available. So I don't see this as that we are not moving forward. It is just that we need right structures. So, for example, how do you incentivize college professors to be part of the equity cap table? So there are many ways this structuring can be done across, and also the education of entrepreneurship, especially education on finance, has to be mandatory for every student, be it across every stream. Be you are in stream of commerce, engineering, science, any stream, finance has to be taught across well, so that the entrepreneurs can understand and respect finance and understand money management.
Yeah. So, you're right. We have also partnered with more than 25 entrepreneurship cells and incubators of IITs, IIMs, and ITs. Uh, this this culture of entrepreneurship is spreading fast, but I still believe it's still there in those, from an India standard, that Ivy colleges, top 10 MBA, top 10 engineering students, where apparently the job opportunities are also there. Where 90% the background of the students are also, or and the parents are also, where they understand the risk, they know the reward risk ratio. But I think because in last 4 months we have received close to 300 odd student pitch decks, and it really gives me goosebumps that out of that 50% of those where there are actual businesses, they are not the project plans. But the problem is, most of these businesses are the Me Too businesses. They are not creating a product or an innovation. There's no IP. They are creating another Flipkart, another Zomato. Uh, I'm not so sure whether they'll be able to scale beyond that region, that college, that network. How do we help them take that leap of faith and say, okay, hey, work on a some product IP, because then the reward ratio, the time is also going to be more. But the ecosystem like us might not be prepared to bet on those projects.
So that is the reason, Ankur, I've been running this venture investing classes. I would like to see at least 5,000 angel investors getting created across, so that more startups get funded, more opportunities get created in India. I'm very bullish on India, and I I recommend strongly to every investor to bet on India, and especially young India. And this is a time. I mean, by 2025, you would see at least 100 plus unicorns in India, and that's going to be massive change, and that's going to change the landscape. We young startups are the only place where job is getting created, and check out every possible government data. That's where the new jobs will get created, the new industries will get created. It is the startups which will take India ahead. So I'm very bullish on this, and hopefully, this my endeavor of training angel investors very closely on do's and don'ts, how to filter deals, how to back founders, how to work with them. In fact, Ankur, just to tell you, I have backed failed entrepreneurs, twice in terms of their next ideas, and it has been a gratifying experience. My second time investment paid off much better, right? So, how, failure, once you start thinking failure is an event, right? It is not the founder which has failed, it is the idea which has failed.
Yeah.
That's how you need to start thinking. So, see, investor mindset also has to be acceptable to learning, saying that, angel investing or early stage investing is all about focusing on magnitude of success, not frequency of success, right? So they need to understand power law of investing, right? Power law, once they see any startup investor, once they understand what is power law, they've understood everything of startup investing. So that's my key goal, to make them understand that route to success is going to be through failures.
Definitely. No, I think this is a great point which you are making, that if we need many entrepreneurs in this country, at the same time we need many angels also in this country. That's I think one piece of ecosystem which is missing. No, I think
If I
and
could
you're
just
yeah,
add to
please.
what you were saying earlier about the, as a college student, I did face this, and I see a lot of students facing this also. It like I just want to question you also over here, because you are running hostel fund, you are running a fund that actually supports college students in terms of entrepreneurship. Uh, in terms of the question that you asked about the IP, don't you think there needs to be awareness created? There are plans, there are e-cells working towards it, but as such, I do not see any awareness being created in like a solid plan to create awareness, some content regarding it, some thesis behind, where then you have a certain thought process, you know that this should be done. But a college student, like, he doesn't have the exposure to know that. Once they do have the exposure, maybe the thinking will go towards that way. So, like, I am always bullish about the fact that awareness should be there. So, don't you think that it should be created by possibly e-cells or other funds like this?
No, so you're right. You're very right. It's not, students are not at fault. They don't have an exposure. Like people like you, your exposure is as large as 3 years, 4 years when you started your graduation. People like Sanjay, people like us, people like college institutions who have at least 15, 20, 25 years of experience. The onus lies on us. That's why I'm saying the onus lies on the institution plus individuals. Uh, and and I think it's a joint responsibility of all. As I told you that, let's say at Hostel Fund, we have been working with 25, so far, 25 e-cells, where we are producing individual content, where we are backing, in last 5 months, we have onboarded around mentors and investors plus advisors who, through Hostel Fund, has advised all these 200 startups. Some of them were like, 2, 3 sessions saying, hey, this is how it has to be done. This is how it has to be done. And the series like this, we are doing our part. And you're right. And never, my intent is to say that it's a student's responsibility to work on that. Students are doing what they know, that because they are reading about Flipkart, they are reading about Zomato, they are not reading about IP based startup. So yeah, you're right. Sanjay, my one last question to you before we wrap up. Uh, uh, how do what's your advice to young entrepreneurs like Arav, that what should they look at? You talked about scale, failures. What are the 2, 3 things what you think which will help the young entrepreneurs like them to really achieve the true potential of entrepreneurship?
Uh, my three things typically for any entrepreneurs to take care is: one, have a goal, have a North Star, have a mission, have a purpose in life, which keeps you driving whether up or down. You should have something to achieve for. So, build a purpose, build a mission. Second is build a great team to work across. Entrepreneurship is tough. You are no one like Superman who can do everything. So always build a good team around you. And lastly, don't run out of cash.
Yeah. Okay. Great. I think that's a great lesson to end the session. Thanks a lot, Sanjay. Thanks a lot, Arav. Thanks. I'm sure both young entrepreneurs and investors would have learned a great deal from this session. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you
Ankur.
so much for this.
Thanks, Arav. Nice to have you on the show.